So yesterday I told you to create I gave you two projects, small project coding exercise, and most of you might have done it because it's a very simple one. And I will do it now together in front of you. Those who want to see how it is done, I can show you. So let's go to the day 6. So one of the project which I told you is we have to swap the two numbers using the temp variable. So I will create the script tag, and the project is to swap two numbers using temp variable. Another project which we will do is swap numbers without using temp variable. So let's start with the first one. You might have done it, but let's do it together. So I will create a function called as function swap, and I will pass two variables in it, and in the end of this function I will change the value of x to y and y to x. So for example, if I have variable x equal to 10 and I have another variable y equal to 5, and then I call swap x comma y, so the ultimate result should be x should get the value of 5 and y should get the value of 10. So they are swapping the numbers with each other. So if I do console.log, initially x is x and y is y. So this is how will be the initial value. Let's preview in the browser. So you will see x is 10 and y is 5. Now we will swap the numbers using the temp variable. So let's say x is a person, he has $10. Y is another person, he has $5. So what we will do, we will call a third person, and we will call the third person, the name of third person is called the temp, and we will give the money of x to that temp person. This temp person will get the money of x, and that will be the $10. So now temp is a person, third person, he will get money of x. So now temp has the money of x, which is equal to 10. Now what we will do, now x will take the money of y. So whatever the money y has, and y will give that money to x. So now after this, y gave his money, that is $5 to x. Now x got the money of y, and this third person temp has got the money of x, that is the $10. And now we will give y the money of x, and money of x is kept secretly with the third person called as temp. So third person will give his money to the y. So y will get the money of x from the temp. So now y will get $10, which was initially the money of x. So this is, we created a temp variable to swap the two numbers. And now if I do console.log of x is x and y is y, let's see. So now I'll refresh the page. So initially x is having 10, y is 5. Now after the exchange of money, x got the value of 5 and y got the value of 10. So what is the idea we did? We called third person, he kept the one of the person's money, and that person got the second person's money, and second person got the first person's money from the third person. So we created a temp variable to swap the two numbers. This is how we swap the two numbers with the temp variable. Now let's save this and let's create another function where we will swap the numbers without this third person. So let's say third person is not there and we want to exchange the numbers. So now what we will do, we will say X will take the money of X plus money of Y. So X will take money of X and money of Y. So what will be the here, what will be the value of X will become? X is taking the money of X and is taking the money of Y. So total will become 15. So now X has $15. Now what we'll do, Y will say that whatever money I have, that is 5, I want to deduct that money from the total money. So Y will get total money, that is X minus Y. What Y is getting? Y will get total minus whatever he was having initially. So that will means 15 minus 5, it will be equal to $10. Now what X will get? X will say whatever total money I have minus whatever money now Y has will be given to the X. So now total money was 15 and this is the 15 is total money. And now what is the money Y has? Now in the second line Y got the money of 10. So minus whatever money Y has now, that will be the 10. So we are deducting 15 minus 10, which will be assigned to the X, and that will be equal to, the X will get 5. The total money is 15 and current Y money is 10 and X will get 5. So we did not use the temp variable, we just added both the money and then we subtracted each of the money and assigned it to back to the Y and X. So this is how we did without creating a temp variable. So let's see the results. So initially X has 10 and then after X has 5 and Y is 10. So this is something which we did without swapping the, without creating the temp variable. So this is the two projects which we did. Now I will give you one project for the homework which I will see on Monday. I want you to show me on that Monday, and the project is like this. You have to create a function which will check if number is prime or not. So you have to create a function and you have to pass any number 12, 5, 4, and that function will give whether that number is prime or not. So, and if you don't know what is prime number, Google it, see what is the meaning of the prime number, and then try to write the program how to check whether the number is prime or not. And I will show you my method on Monday. Now let's move to the next exercise. I will create a 3.html. So we are currently doing the functions. We already covered the arrays. Now we are doing the functions. Now today we will do the scope of variables in the function. So in JavaScript, we have the global variables and we have the local variables. The variables which are created inside the function are not The variables which are created inside the function are called the local variables, and they are not accessible outside that function block. But the variables which are created outside the function, they are called the global variables, and they can be accessible inside the function. So we will see some of the examples of this global variable and local variable. And I will ask you a few questions when going through the each line of the code. So let's create a one global variable by creating in the space. I'm not creating this variable inside any function. So this is considered as a global variable, and all functions can access this variable. So I will say var global equal to 1. So if I do console.log of global, it will show 1. Now I will create a function, and in this function I will create a local variable. So I will say var local is equal to 2, and then I will say global plus plus, and I will return the global variable. Now, since this global variable is created outside the function, so this global variable is available everywhere. It is available outside the function, it is available inside the function also. Now when I run this function, what will be the value displayed? Just give me the value. If I type, so it will display 2, right? So let's try to see what is its displaying. So I will copy this one, and I'm pasting this here. Now if I run the function f, it is displaying as a 2. Now what will happen when I run f again? If I run the function f again, what will be the value displayed? Now initially I got 2. Now I will run f again. What will be appearing here after f? What will be the result? So what will be the output if I run the function again? So it will be the 3, because global is already added to 2, and now if I run this again, global will add one more plus to itself, and it will return 3. If I do it again, it is 4. If I do it again, it's 5. So every time if I run this function, the global is incremented to one more value, and it is displayed that one more value because we are returning the global value. What will happen if I type local? So local is defined here. What will happen if I say console.log of local? So let's say if I do console.log of local, undefined. So since local is created inside the function, I cannot access that local outside this function. So that's why it's saying local is not defined, because local is defined inside the function and it is not available outside the function. So that's the reason it's saying undefined. Now, if I don't put var, before the global, it is always a global variable. So for example, here in the local, if I don't put var, this local is always a global variable, because global variable can be created outside the function with the var keyword. And if we want to create a global variable inside the function, I can remove the var, and then it will create a global variable as a local. So let's try to do one exercise on this one. Let's say I create a function f1, and here I say local equal to 2. Since I did not put var, this will become the global variable, and I will press enter. So I created a function and I said local equal to 2. Okay, since we have already local here defined, so this will create a confusion. Let me create a new tab and then we will do it again. Let's do this in the new tab with some different name, because if I put same name, it will give some wrong answers. Let's say if I create a function s, and inside this function, if I create a variable called as local1 equal to 2. Now local1 is defined without the var keyword. That means it is a global variable. It is not the local variable. Now what will happen if I do console.log of local1? 2. Answer is not 2. The reason I will tell you in a minute. First, let me show you what is coming. It is saying not defined because we only created the function structure, and while creating the structure, the global variable is not really created. It's this local one is a global variable, but if I create a function and just call the local one, then it will say undefined because I just only define the structure of the function. I did not call this function. If I don't call this function, the local one is not really created in the global space, and we will get the not defined answer. Now, if I run s function and then I do the console.log of local1, then it is the 2. The reason being, once I say s, once I call this function, then the local variable local1 is created in the global space, and then I will able to access this local1. But before calling this function, even though I created this function, but the global variable does not really exist in the global space. It's only in the air. It's only in the theoretical place that is inside this function. It is not really in the global space. So once we call this function, at that time, this real global variable is created in the global space, and then we can do the console.log. So before calling this function, this local variable does not even exist. Though it is name is local, but it is a global in the global space. So now let's move further and do some more stuff on this one. Okay, let's do one more. I will say var a equal to 1, 2, 3. And then I will say function f1, and here I will say alert a, and then I will say var a equal to 1, and then I will do alert again of a, and then I will close this one and I'll press enter. So this function is created, this variable is created in the global space that is called as var a123, and then I created a function, and inside that we do the alert of a, and then we again create a local variable called as a equal to 1, and then I do the alert a. Since this is a global variable, it should be available inside the function also. But with this scene, with this scenario, what do you think, what will be displayed first if I call this function 1? What will be the value appear for this alert? So tell me the value which will come for this alert. So Kate is saying 1, 2, 3. So the answer is really not 1, 2, 3. The reason is, first I'll show you what is coming, and then I'll give you the reason why it's not like that. So let's put enter. So once I say enter, you will see undefined. So first alert is giving me undefined. I will say okay, And second alert, which is this one, is giving me the value of 1. Now why it happened? Though this variable is created in the global space, when we go inside the function, we are creating another a variable which is called the local variable. And this local variable, though it is defined after this alert a, but this a is in the local space, that is, this is the local space. So when we define a local variable, then it will not take any global variable value. It will consider that a in the local space. It will not consider the global space a. So it will only consider the value a, which is in the local space, since it is created inside this function. But when I call this alert a, it is not really defined. So though it is in this local space, but it is not defined, so we are getting undefined. And then we define it a equal to 1, and then we call alert a, so it is calling alert a equal to 1. So here we are getting the 1 because we got the value of 1 to the a. But here, though the a is defined locally, so a is available in the local format, but since its value is not defined here at this point, so it is giving me undefined. And then we define this variable, and then we get the real value. So though a is created in the global space, but since we create again a in the local space, so this value will not come inside this function, and this function will consider only the local space a, and it will not really give the value because it is undefined at this point. Yeah, if it is different variable name, let's say if a is not there, let's consider var b equal to 1, 2, 3, and then I create a function f2, and I will say alert b, and then I create var a equal to 1, and then I will say alert a. Now since we didn't define b inside the local, so b is coming from the global space, and we can see 1, 2, 3. So if I run this one f2, it will show 1, 2, 3 from the global space, and then it will run a from the local space and show the result. But in the first case, though a was defined in the global space, but because of the local variable creation, this a is not taking from the global space, it is taking from the local space only, but at this point it is not defined really, so it is saying undefined, and then we are really defining its value, and so we are getting this value here. So this local scope is more important than this global scope. So the local variable overrides any global variable with the same name. So at the time of the first alert, a was not yet defined. So a is not defined here in the local space, and so it is giving undefined. And then we are really defining it. Though it is created here, that's the reason it is overwriting the global space. Okay, now let's move to another part of the function. I can create function like this, function f, it's returning 1, for example. I can create another function with var f1 equal to function, and it is returning 1, and I created this function. So either I can create a function in this format, or I can create function in this format. In both the cases, results will be as per the definition, as per this output. So if I call first one, it's giving 1, and if I am calling second one, it is giving 1. So either you create like this format or you create like this format, it's up to you. Both are valid function creation. Now this is only the definition how to create the function. Let's move to the next one. Now if I type like this, test array 1 2 3 null 1 and I press enter, you will see these are kind of values. This is array, this is null, this is 1, and this is string. So when I type this line of the statement, it is not giving me any error. It is not giving me any error. So though these are the useless values which we cannot really use, but it does not give me any error. Similarly, we can also create functions which does not have any name. Here we don't have any name. Generally we create a function like this, function f, and we give some value and we return it. We can also create a function without giving really a name, and I can say function a, and let's say it's written, sorry, I have to press enter. Okay, so I will create a function a and I will return a. Okay, so though it is giving error now here, but when we will use it as an anonymous function, it will not give me the error, because right now I'm not using this function in really any place. So it's giving me some error kind of thing because it's expecting the name to be here. But when I can use this function without giving any name, and this function is called the anonymous function, and we generally use this anonymous function in the callbacks. So there are many places where we have to call the function as a callback, and in that we don't give really the name of the function, and we define the function like this. Here it is expecting the name, so it is giving me error. But when we will use this as a callback function, then we will not get this error, and we can call this function only one time because it does not have the name, and it is generally used in the callback functions. So we will see some of the callback functions in few examples now. So before even going to this anonymous function, I will first show you uh, some kind of we call function as a parameter in the another function. So let's try to see one example. I will say function invoke 1, for example, and it will take a as a parameter and b as another parameter, and a is actually a function, so I can return it like this: return a as a function plus b as a function. Okay, so my invoke 1 takes two parameters. These two are really function definition, and so to call them I can call as a function. So I will say a of function and b of function, and I return by adding these two. Now I will create two functions. I will say function 1, it will return 1, and I will call another function 2, it will return 2. So I created two function 1 and 2. Now I will call this invoke 1, and instead of passing some value called or 1 or 2, I will pass this function string. I will pass 1 and I will pass 2 in it. So when we pass this 1, this function 1 will go inside it, and it is invoked like this by calling the round bracket. So it will really invoke this part and it will return 1. And if I pass, instead of b, I am passing 2, it will go here b as a 2, and it will call this 2 function and it will return 2. So the ultimate answer will be 1 plus 2, because this is returning 1 and this is returning 2. And if I press enter, answer is coming 3, because 1 goes here as a and it is called as a function, and then b goes here and it is called as a 2 function, and both are returned 1 and 2, which will be added and returned as a 3. Now what will happen if I type 1 only? So when I say 1, it's not really invoking the function, it only shows me the definition of 1, that is this one. And if I pass 2, it will show me the definition of this function as 2. So if I want to run 2, I can run 2 with this round bracket, and then really the 2 function will be called. But sometimes I don't want to really invoke the function, I really want to pass it as a string. So I just say 2, then it will go as a function definition. And whenever in my program I want to really use this part, I will call 2 with this round bracket, and then it will really execute the function. If I put this round bracket, that means I'm executing the function. But if I don't put round bracket, I'm not really executing the function, I'm just using the function as a string. So it is only the string, it will not really do anything. It will give me just a string of this function, and it will not do any kind of logic or any kind of functionality which is inside this function. So many times you don't have to run this function, you have to just pass this function definition inside another function, and that function will pass it to another function, and that way this function will be passed to multiple times. Whenever we want to really run it, we will run it with this method. But when we don't want to run it, we will just pass it as a string, and it will go inside the function as a string. We will see a lot more examples of this too, when it is used as a string and when it is used as this function in future classes. So right now just remember that if we don't want to really execute the function, we'll pass it like this as a string. But if we want to execute it, we will execute using this way. Okay, so that's it for today. We will see tomorrow on Monday. Next class is on Monday. We will see some of the callback functions and anonymous functions, which we just talked here. So we will see these two functions on Monday. And then we will soon start the closures. Closures are very important topic in all interview. So you should be very much prepared with the closures. So that's it for today. Any questions?